Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Tuesday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. It's not even the end of June. Are the Lakers already locked out of the free agent center market? That's next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, no matter how or where you get your podcasts. This one's always free, never behind a paywall. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where people who are not subscribing perhaps on iTunes, Apple podcast app, or maybe Spotify, Andy, that's where people who like to watch can go hang out with over 35,000 other subscribers to the channel. They're talking to each other. They're talking to us, leaving questions, leaving comments, a lot of chatter. Based on Monday's show where we talked about Austin Reeves and his potential trade value following the big Memphis to Orlando swap that sent Desmond Bane to Florida. Some other fallout from that trade that could be influential for the Lakers, which we'll get into here in a second. I want to let people know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So we're going to try to get back to a couple of things that we did not quite finish up with the Reeves conversation. If we don't get to it today, we'll certainly get to it over the course of this week because there's a lot to unpack there. But Andy, it wasn't the only, that giant trade wasn't the only important stuff that happened in the league over the course of the weekend. Steven Adams extends with Houston 3 years, $13 million per, so $39 million total. Not a surprise that Adams was out of LA's price range or that he stayed in Houston, but it was a number that I think probably got some people's attention.
It was more than I expected the Rockets to pay Steven Adams to stay, and both of us said in shows leading up to this deal eventually happening that we thought Steven Adams was unlikely to be within the Lakers' price range.
Or really even that close?
Right. But that being said, I mean, the Lakers, for those not up to speed, as far as free agents, they have a taxpayer mid-level, which is worth a little bit less than $6 million. And both of our thought was Steven Adams had a very impactful playoff first round for the Rockets. He is known to be a very good culture setter in a very young locker room. He's experienced. He sets just bone breakers of screens. He's one of the best offensive rebounders in the league. We thought that it would make sense that the Rockets wouldn't keep him. I did not expect this price point, but it did reinforce our general concern in thinking about the taxpayer mid-level and how the Lakers are going to target it, and center often comes up. If there's a team that has a free agent center and they want to keep him, it's going to be very easy to outbid the Lakers and not terribly financially burdensome to outbid the Lakers, because once you get to about $6.5 million, Lakers are out. Like they're way out.
Here's in terms of being able to equal your bid. Here's where the Lakers can compete, where they can make a very compelling pitch: playing time. The Lakers have, of all contending teams, if you're a free agent center who, for whatever reason, wants to reestablish value, sign a short contract to maybe get back on the free agent market faster, whatever the situation might be. But you also want to play for a team where you're playing meaningful basketball, because honestly, everybody wants to win. That plan works better if you have your choice playing on a team playing consequential basketball. If you're playing on a lousy team, you can sort of reestablish your value, or establish a higher value or whatever it might be. But it doesn't work as well as doing it in minutes that really matter. So the Lakers, more than any team, I think, in the, we'll call them top 10, I think, around the league, which is fair, can offer playing time to a center. So that's the pitch. You come here, you're going to get twice as many minutes as you might with contender X, contender Y, and contender Z. But that's good because it can't be money.
Which, by the way, another reason that neither one of us thought Steven Adams was ultimately a realistic target. Not only was it going to be too easy for Houston to outbid him when it was clear that they wanted to keep him and it seemed like he wanted to stay. Steven Adams is not somebody who is going to be super concerned about his playing time, particularly in the regular season. Like, he only played about 15 minutes a game. And I know this was coming off a season that he lost due to injury. So some of that may have been easing him in.
Right.
But
And he plays behind an excellent center and
right.
Alpi Şengün and all that.
Right. And if by definition, if he was happy in Houston, then he was happy in a situation where his minutes were going to be, for a variety of reasons, capped. So the idea of showcasing himself, if that's even what Steven Adams wanted, didn't seem likely if, by all appearances, he seemed to want to stay in Houston, because that's going to be one of the only selling points not there with the Rockets.
Right. And obviously Houston is a team that is just as much in contention as the Lakers. So, like, again, neither one of us expected that to be an outcome where Adams ends up as a reasonable possibility for the Lakers. But what really got me worried, if you're thinking about the free agent market, is what this means for the value of, you start going down. Like, if you get a chance, viewer, head over to Hoops Hype. Just Google Hoops Hype top centers free agency NBA. It's not an encouraging list. So Miles Turner, not happening. We all know that. Naz Reid, not happening. We all know that. So after that, you're talking about somebody like Steven Adams. Well, already off the market. You're talking about Clint Capela. If Adams is worth 13 to a team that wants him, Capela was not bad with Atlanta last year. He's certainly lost a step. He's not quite the guy he was at his peak in his early seasons in Atlanta, but he's hardly a bad player. It's just that Onyeka Okongwu is really good, really young, and Atlanta's invested a lot in him. And, it's time for him to take that job. But Capela's still young enough that he can play. If Adams is a $13 million player, Capela certainly seems like a $8 or $9 or $10 million guy for a team that values his skill set and wants what he does. It is not hard for me to picture a team paying him or offering him more than the Lakers could at $6 million.
Maybe. I think that is.
I'm not saying not guaranteed. I'm just saying it's very possible.
I think it is possible, but I would need to go through all of the teams that actually have cap space and then look at how badly do they actually need a center or need a quality backup center. Like, at this stage of his career, I think Clint Capela he's more of a high-end backup than I think he is.
I would agree.
An optimal starter. He's kind of a low-end starter. He lost that job to Okongwu. It very clearly, that's the guy for Atlanta moving forward. And if he was going to stay in Atlanta, like if, say, Atlanta wanted to keep him badly enough, it would have to be a situation where I'm guessing Capela's okay with probably a cap at around 18 to 20 minutes a night. Like, I don't picture him playing.
I think it would be somewhat similar to how the last month and a half ended last year, where Okongwu gets the bulk of the minutes and Capela has a significant role. But the Lakers aren't. If Atlanta wants to keep him and the Lakers and Capela wants to stay, the Lakers certainly are going to probably not be able to outbid him.
Absolutely.
But it's less the Hawks than it is potentially other teams that might have a needed center. But like you say, you got to go through each team individually.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many teams have that type of cap space. I mean, I truly don't know. I have not gone through all of them. But how many of them actually have both the cap space and the most pressing need that you would want to pay 9, 10, maybe even higher for Clint Capela a season? And, I guess that pressing need that would make him feel like he'd be showcased. Like, the Lakers are going to be looking for teams like they're hoping Capela with the Hawks, where if nothing else, his role was decreasing. And unless Capela can just get another 2 or 3 years out of Atlanta, if he's just getting, say, 1 year with them and a shrinking role, that may not be appealing to him.
Sure.
Because then if he's going to re-enter free agency looking for maybe his last opportunity in his early 30s to get a multi-year deal, he doesn't want to stay, I'm guessing, in a situation where he's only going to be playing 20 minutes a night max.
Yeah. A couple more names that are interesting here. One of them directly related to the Orlando trade, and even a name when you start factoring in the market and the lack of depth in the center pool for free agency, even some of the names that you wouldn't think could cost a lot, the Lakers could find themselves with some competition. I'll break some of those down next.
Lock on Lakers is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs, they are in full swing. Hell of a performance by the Thunder in Game 5, taking a 3-2 lead over the Pacers. Every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, can't-miss moments, and whether it's a game-winning shot, a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on that action than with FanDuel, because they make it easy to get in the game before the tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. Like, you can track players who consistently show up in the big moments, but also when they put on those superhero capes. And those trends can help inform your next bets. You take that knowledge, maybe you roll it into a same game parlay, you press things up, keep it interesting, keep it exciting, and keep it smart. And if you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com, place your first $5 bet. If it hits, you will get $200 in bonus bets. So pick something obvious. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA.
So real quick, before we get back to the center conversation, I was really impressed with what the Thunder did. You mentioned Game 5 there in the read. That was, for people who may not have seen it or people following along, that thing they did in the fourth quarter was one of the first time, really, I think the first time in this series where they put things into a gear that was like, oh, that's championship, you're done gear. Like, that was something that, like, they dropped it into, 11th or something. And there was even a team with Indiana's athleticism and cohesion. I know Halliburton was hurt. That was super impressive. So kudos to Oklahoma City for what they did there. So I pulled up, Andy, the Hoops Hype rankings there for the offseason free agents. You've got, I mentioned Turner, Naz Reid, Brook Lopez is the third ranked guy. Given that Giannis is at least for now, is going to stay. Looks like. Wouldn't shock me if Milwaukee tried to hold on to as much talent as they could. But even then, Lopez, of all the top ranked centers that are available, is probably one of the lesser fits, I think, with the Lakers. It's not great. It works for some things. It works for others. Really want to do a show where we focus on, like, which aspects of a center are most important, like if you can only pick some. Then after that, I mentioned Capela. He's my favorite choice of guys who at least seem vaguely gettable.
Same with me.
Mo Wagner is someone who, at least in theory, would have been affected by the Orlando trade. They're going to have to unload some team options just to avoid massive tax payments. They turned down the options on Gary Harris on Monday and on Corey Joseph. There is some talk that they might turn down Wagner. I believe he's got an $11 million or $12 million contract for next year. But there are also reports saying that Orlando might try to sort of renegotiate. And
most of what I've seen is that Orlando is going to try to keep Mo Wagner, if at all possible, between, I think they like him and Franz's brother.
Yeah, he's a very good backup center.
Yeah, he is. I mean, if nothing else, I think it is more likely that they're going to need to move at least one of their centers, because they've got Mo Wagner, they've got Goga Patazzi, they've got Wendell Carter Jr., plus Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner taking up front court minutes. Jonathan Isaacs, like, they've got, if you think the Lakers have some redundancy in the front court, the Magic can give them they've got pretty quality redundancy, but they've got redundancy.
Yeah, they got a lot of dudes. They got a lot of dudes. And that's why Goga, and we'll do trades. We'll talk about trades a little bit maybe before this episode's over. That's why Goga is considered such a target. But I am willing to bet that the number that with a guy like Wagner, who, go look him up, numbers were better than you probably remember for Wagner this year. Is he a perfect fit with the Lakers and Luka? No, but just in the sense that he's not like a crazy athlete. He's just a good player, good backup. Averaged 13 points a game last year, 5 rebounds, shot over 56%. Can step out and hit a 3-pointer. He made $11 million last year. I am willing to bet that the number that he lands on, if he does stay in Orlando, is going to be higher than $6 million. So without
he strikes, I would love for the Lakers to be able to get Mo Wagner. He strikes me as very unlikely. I would love to be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't, but he adds to the skill set, to the depth of the position. I'm going to jump down to 7 because 6 on this list is Al Horford, who I actually don't think is going to leave Boston. But actually wouldn't mind Al Horford, but as long as we're talking about old people, we went through a bunch of old people, Chris Paul, Brook Lopez last week. Horford's still a very productive player, and can defend. Where I think it's the market really starts to get interesting. Number 7 on this list is Luke Kornet from the Celtics, essentially a career backup, and in sometimes, Andy, a deep career backup, but has had good moments. He can certainly is a pretty good shot blocker, can protect the rim a little bit, can get above the rim a little bit, decent rebounder, but has never been relied on to play real minutes. I look at the market for centers. I wonder if a guy like Kornet is even going to face, like, the idea. I think if you had asked Laker fans 2 months ago, would $6 million absolutely get you Luke Kornet? They would say, of course it would, and that's a massive overpay.
Who are we splitting up the taxpayer mid-level with?
Right.
That's what they would ask.
I think it's going to take most of your mid-level to get Kornet. So, like, is that where you want to spend your money? Like, they may not have a choice. Like, this is just sort of the market that we live in. He would be a good addition to what the Lakers have. I don't think he's a starting caliber player. He probably can't get that. We can't get that for $6 million. But like that, I don't think I'm going to be wrong about that. That the competition, even for guys like him who are sort of unestablished but show some potential, people might think they might be able to get a bargain. He's going to cost more than I think people are expecting.
If the Lakers cannot somehow get Clint Capela or Brook Lopez, who are the biggest, if nothing else, they are the biggest, most established names that are going to be out there as free agent centers. I just want to prepare our audience ahead of time for, you're not going to be inspired by whoever the Lakers end up, if they end up targeting a center with that taxpayer mid-level. You're not going to be inspired by the options. We just talked about Luke Kornet, Al Horford, Kevon Looney maybe could be an option, like someone like that, which
Andre
I'm not
Drummond
even saying that those guys
out there. Andre Drummond made $5 million last year.
And he's got a player option. I'm guessing if he's looking for that type of money, you might as well just opt in and not have to move.
Right.
But I mean, I'm being serious.
Right. Dead serious. Absolutely.
You might as well just stay put. The money's pretty negligible. Why hire a bunch of movers and relocate and whatever? But like, the options are going to be uninspiring. Now, that does not mean that whoever they land on couldn't potentially be helpful. Sometimes you end up getting more than you felt like you paid for. I mean, that stuff for a while, it looked like that was going to be happening with the Lakers and Jackson Hayes. Mm-hmm. And our listeners who have followed Luka's career and came over from like Locked On Mavs, they will remember that the year that the Mavericks went to the finals with Luka and Kyrie, a huge part of that was the Mavericks that season hit an absolute grand slam on Derrick Jones Jr. as a vet min player. Like I don't know off the top of my head, but I'm willing to guess that was the best vet min signing of that season. Right. So, I mean, a couple of years ago, Malik Monk was a great vet min signing for the Lakers. So
it can happen. It can happen.
It can happen.
There are other names around that, are sort of intriguing. Somebody like, Day'Ron Sharpe is a restricted free agent. If the Lakers offered him, gave him that as an offer sheet, I suspect Brooklyn would match.
I would be pretty surprised if they didn't.
Especially
since everybody expects Nick Claxton to be traded. I would be very surprised if Sharpe didn't get matched.
Sandra Mamukelashvili in San Antonio has had some decent moments. Is certainly a very large human. Some people still like Jericho Sims. I mean, the Lakers will be able to kind of troll around and pick up some like they might find that from a free agency standpoint, it's better just to not spend the money. Like, if you feel like Luke Kornet, who is, by the way, almost 30, it's not like you're getting a young center with tons of upside. If you think that a guy like that could be just a solid backup center for 3 or 4 years, okay, you can't fix necessarily every hole in your offseason unless you're the Oklahoma City Thunder and have all those assets. And also, ironically, no holes to fill.
Bastards.
So next, let's talk about this. Like, whether or not the Lakers, like, which path should they take? Like, is it worth even really trying if a guy like Capela falls off your board to pick a player like Lopez? I'm just making it, pretending he's available. If it's not the right fit for you short and long term, what's the best avenue for the Lakers to take here? That's the question we'll ask next. I mean, it's becoming pretty clear to me, Andy, that the Lakers, if they're going to make substantial progress in shoring up the center position, are going to have to do it through a trade, which gets to the rest of the Reeves conversation, which we might start today, but otherwise we'll get into it tomorrow. What's your thinking? Like, you saw Adams, it sort of sets the market a little bit, or at least gives some relative idea of pricing. What's your feeling about how the best way to proceed here vis-a-vis free agent centers?
I think it's honestly just, who are we talking about? Like, if Clint Capela is available, obviously that's a no-brainer. Go get him. At worst, he's a low-end starting center. At best, he is a high-end backup.
And even if you're playing from a position of like, man, our starting center isn't as good as some of these other ones,
right?
He's still a pretty big leap over what the Lakers were starting post-trade last year.
If Brook Lopez becomes available, I would want him more as a backup than a starter. I don't love the idea of Brook Lopez as a starter playing a lot of those minutes with Luka. I think he can help out in certain ways, but there's other ways where it doesn't seem totally ideal for what you would want with Luka, the way he likes to play, some of the athleticism that you're looking to shore up, and also, too, the type of defense that it seems like JJ Redick, the way he likes to scheme. I don't think Brook Lopez is a great fit for it. But then with Lopez, you start getting to how many years are we talking?
That was my next question. If it took 3 and 8, I mean, the Lakers max, it's $6 million a year or whatever it is. But like, if it was 3 and 18, like, is that what you want to do? Like,
no,
I don't really want to do that either.
No.
And even though the $6 million would be probably relatively easy to move or to add, or like you get a $6 million contract and becomes, I don't think that's.
I mean, is it the worst use of $6 million in the world? No. Is it the worst use of $18 million over 3 years? No. Is it what I would be particularly excited about doing? No. Would I be wary of doing it? Yes. Would I look somewhere else? God, yes.
And Sky Falcon 5, not to be confused with Sky Falcon 4. He makes the point. I think he's right. If there's not a decent center available for the MLE, you use it on a player like Bruce Brown or Gary Trent. Gary Harris is going to be available, is a good defender, at least, and has had moments when he's been a good shooter.
Corey Joseph looked better in the playoffs for Orlando than Gabe Vincent. That's
true. But I think whether you want to argue about the players or this or that or whatever, it's fine. The name is kind of irrelevant. But I think the point that Sky Falcon is making is correct. Like, it's better to use that money. Center might be your biggest need, but if you can find a player that is a better fit for what you need to do, it's not the only need. So if you can get a better player who fills what seems to be a slightly lesser need, a really good backup point guard, like a true facilitating, ball handling point guard who can be a secondary guy behind Luka, something like that. Like, they're
an athletic wing.
An
of any
athletic
type.
wing, absolutely. That is not a bad idea. And so I think it's possible to sort of over compensate for this thing where you bypass a player who ultimately would be more useful or a better fit because you just feel this desperate need to close a hole at center through free agency. And the more I look at this, the more I just don't see it as a really realistic possibility for anything, for a Capela or above level player.
There really is no, I mean, it's Capela. There is no above. Like,
Well, I mean, if you want to put Lopez in that group, if you want to
not.
put like,
I don't consider him above. I would maybe consider Mo Wagner above, but again, I don't think he's going to be gettable for the Lakers. If he is sold, snatch him up before he changes his mind,
right.
or Orlando changes their mind. But I don't think that's going to be possible.
Yeah, I think the only way that happens is if Orlando really does decline and actually with the intention of not bringing him back.
Right,
Maybe
exactly. Which
he gets out in the free agent market. I mean, because Wagner at this point is, how old is Mo Wagner?
he's probably about 28, 29.
I will tell you in a second if you are correct. He is 28. Good job, Andy.
I remember when he's an old friend. I remember when the Lakers drafted.
I know. I can't remember the exact years, and I can't do math. So, but he's a good player, and he would actually be an interesting complement in the front court. As when you think about Luka as a point guard with a front court player's size, and then LeBron with his ability to move the ball, a ball moving, facilitating type guy like Mo Wagner is just a smart player. He'd be great. But I don't see it happening. I think ultimately they're going to have to, if they're going to fill this hole, it's going to be through a trade.
Absolutely. I mean, and we'll get into this over the course of the week, like the idea of centers to target via trade who would be potentially worthy of including Austin Reeves because he is perceived as the best chip the Lakers can play. Like, you start running into a whole bunch of other problems there as well. Like the question of, we'll get into this, but would you trade Austin Reeves for center X? For the most part, for me, when I've gone through these thought exercises, the answer is no, not even because I am so high on Austin Reeves. I think he's a very good player, but I've made it clear. I think the Lakers should be more open to trading him than they've seemed to be. And I think that they have over-coveted him over the last couple of years in ways that I think is actually possibly now starting to get the Lakers into some trouble. But if you start looking at the centers around the league that you could even talk yourself into believing are available, there are only maybe one or two that you could look at and then say, would I include Austin Reeves in a trade for this guy? Like, Nick Claxton has been linked to the Lakers all the time. And he's been my number one realistic target for the Lakers at center. But I'm not essentially trading up Austin Reeves for Nick Claxton straight up. I'm not
certainly not straight up. If, there would have to be other things that come back there are
Austin Reeves is worth more than Nick Claxton. He's worth more than Daniel Gafford
by a lot.
Yeah.
Like Claxton is worth more than Daniel Gafford.
But the Clippers, on the flip side, they are not going to trade Ivica Zubac for Austin Reeves,
right, which I would do.
I would do that too. They're not going to do it.
Right. So you
start just getting yourself into, we'll get into it in later shows. It's tricky.
So yeah, the big question with Reeves is if you did put him on the market, and this is part of this equation, are you better off if you decide, let's make him available? We saw what Desmond Bane is worth. Let's make him available. Are you better off doing it to try to fill that center hole? Or are you better off trying to get assets that you can then turn around and include in a different deal to try to make the team better? That is the question we'll lead off with for Wednesday's show. In the meantime, Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can hang out. With over 35,000 subscribers to the channel, Andy. We will see everyone tomorrow. Everyone have a great, great day.